Yo! Video games.
What up, dudes? It's Matt here from YoVideogames. As we wind down to the end of my hands-on time of games at E3, it's time to talk about what is probably the best sleeper hit game of the show. Now, that might be a little weird to say, hey, sleeper hit of E3, how can that be? Well, it's a game that I didn't see getting a whole lot of coverage. It's one that I didn't see getting a whole lot of hype. I didn't see it at any of the press conferences, but you know what? It was one of the best damn games I played at the entire show floor, and that game was Abzu. Abzu is a game that's by the developer Giant Squid. I think it's their first game, and I think that name is no coincidence since it's a game about scuba diving, more or less. And it's being published by 505 Games. And they had a really cool little display that they set up in a corner of a lobby of the entranceway of the E3 show floor. Now, I get it, this may not mean a lot to you guys, but they had basically had a very small space to work with. They weren't even on the show floor, but they had a really cool, interesting demo kiosk or set of demos that you could play this really unique game right in the front of the show floor. Now, getting all that out of the way, if you look at Abzu right from the get-go, you think, well, this certainly looks like a famous game that came out on the PS3, and of course it looks like Journey, but this time you're scuba diving. You could say it is Journey Under the Sea. I made the connection and it was pretty obvious, but you know what was really interesting was learning after the show that Giant Squid actually has the art director for Journey working on this game. I think he's directing it, and it has the same composer from Journey. So really, no coincidence at all. How does the game actually play? Well, you know what? Yes, it does kind of have a very Journey-esque feeling to playing the game, but at the same time, it feels a lot like and reminds me a lot of fucking Echo the Dolphin. And it gets even more closer to Echo than you might realize from the start. So, Journey takes place, and I can't figure this out if it's a real ocean or a made-up ocean, because when you're playing the game, you have these little areas, these little shark statues that the diver, who does look a little more Avatar-esque, I guess. He's kind of just like a black body and some very basic Wind Waker-y eyes and a yellow helmet and some flippers, of course. You can sit on these shark statues and meditate. And when you meditate, you basically get like fish cam mode, where you can press left and right on the D-pad and basically observe specific types of fish. And they're all based off real life animals. Most of the ones in the demo were all based off Pacific Ocean marine life. We're talking like the mako sharks, and you got a lot of California kelp fish, and that's actually really cool. But I don't know if it's meant to be based in the Pacific Ocean or not. It didn't really have anything that defined it. Now, again, because it is the art director from Journey, it has a very similar art style here, so it's not like it's trying to be ultra realistic. It's actually very surreal, and it's actually really fucking cool. I remember seeing this game a year or so ago, and I was kind of off-put by the super minimalist approach that it had. And I wanted to really like it, but it just seemed too basic, too shape-driven. Like, it's just shapes and some colors and really not much else. I don't know what happened. Maybe it's really improved from that, or maybe I've just gotten seen more of the game and gotten more impressed. But the game now definitely looks better. Like, it looks like there's more to it. It looks like you're definitely in an environment and not just in a bunch of colored blocks and shapes. The game is really cool. So what separates it from Journey is Journey obviously was meant to be a sort of social multiplayer experiment. This is very specifically about single player. And I think the core difference here is Journey kind of kept you moving along. Hey, you were going on your journey, as it were. This game wants you to explore. And I think that's the real driving factor, and what makes me really excited for this game is that it's a game that encourages you to look around your environment. Now, there's not a whole lot to do, at least in the demo, but what is available and what you can do is very intriguing. So you have this sort of echo voice shout thing you can do, and that interacts with things, that lets you grab onto things, that basically is your key to fiddling with the world. You can just swim around and look at fish. Again, you can find those relaxation points, or actually they're called meditation points. You can find little submerged drones in the water and repair them, and then they follow you along. You can find like big grouper fish or manta rays, and you can press the same button, I think it's square, to hold onto them, and you can hold onto these larger sea life creatures, and you can ride around, and they'll maybe take you to different places and stuff. So where the game starts out, you start out in basically a wide open area where there's there's not a lot going on. You dive under the water, you see these really cool reflections on it of the clouds and stuff, and then when you go down the water, it's kind of like an open, sandy area, not a lot going on. And as you move forward, you start going into a kelp forest, and that's really cool, and then that's where you find some drones and repair them, and they help you break down like a coral wall that's basically impeded your ability to move forward. And then from there, you go into other areas like underwater caverns and stuff like that. And then the game gets real trippy and real cool. And this is where the weird Echo the Dolphin thing comes in. Because you start finding these sunken ruins. And one of them like has like a tower that's glowing. And you go into the glowing spot on the tower. And you're suddenly in what I can only describe as what looks like a outer space kind of motif. Where it's like there's these weird structures of light made amongst this constellation of stars, and as you swim around it, you'll notice there's this tower of like coral that's kind of like faded or just kind of like just untextured, and you go to it and there's like this floating blob of, I don't know, it looks like jelly or jello, and you take some of the essence. The character diver literally pulls some life essence and, you know, like a glowing orb out of them and puts it into this floating gelatin orb thing. And what that does is it creates this weird visual image of like the kelp or coral tower coming back to life and all these manta rays coming out. And then you get sent back to, I guess, what you could call the real world, and all the life has come back to this area that was gone, and that opens up a door, and you swim through that and you see all these hieroglyphics of other diver looking people. So like maybe there's like this weird connection where you're like an alien, or not even an alien, you're just like from some race that went extinct, and maybe by finding these weird portals to other dimensions or whatever it is, like you give your life essence to bring life back to this ocean. And then, you know, it gets more back into reality. You start seeing some sharks and stuff, and one of them eats a drone, and then you find this big giant like sunken alien vessel, very abyss looking thing that's at the bottom of the ocean, and you open up the this front hatch, and as you swim through, that's kind of where the demo ends. But what was really cool about the demo is that it had all these different segmented areas you could go and explore. You have your basic shoal area where it's just kind of like an empty open beach area. You have this area where there's like all these like kelp and like lily pad looking, they're not lily pads, but they're like growth over the water, and you can swim up through the holes and see kind of like a new area. You can go through caves, you go through kelp forests, you go through more rocky areas, and then you can find these ruins that you can swim through as well. And this game is really, really fucking good, and it's coming out really, really fucking soon. It comes out on August 2nd for PS4 and Steam, and I think if you enjoy games with really good soundtracks, really unique art styles, and you're not opposed to something that's more exploration and maybe more puzzle based, although not really a lot of puzzles going on in here, but you can see where it might have some in the end game, I think you're really going to dig this game. It's not very long. The developers, by their own admission, they're saying it's not a super long game. It's mostly about relaxation and discovery, and so it can take you anywhere from a few hours to maybe 10, and maybe if you're pushing, it kind of depends on who you are, I guess, but the idea behind it is that it's a lot like Journey, but it's single-player focused, and it wants you to go around the environment, not just constantly go forward. And it's coming out really well. Now, there is a sort of downside, and that is it does take a little bit to get used to the controls, and not just the controls, but using the camera in tandem with the swimming controls. I can safely say, like, you know, they haven't quite solved the underwater issue that a lot of people seem to have, where it's like swimming controls always kind of suck, and they're not terrible here. There's an adjustment period because your diver is very, very loose. Like, he does flow very, very fast and naturally through the water, so it's not like, say, Mario 64, where it's like this really slow, constant like breaststroke or something like that. It's much more freeform, and I think that also kind of reminds me of like the Echo the Dolphin for Dreamcast and whatnot. But it's been really so long since I played Echo on Dreamcast, I can't tell you for sure if it's just like that. It's just that he moves pretty quickly through the water, and you do have a quick turnaround, like a quick flip maneuver. So it's really more about just coming to grips with swimming and using the camera to keep your trajectory and focus. So I had the problem of moving the camera way too much, and it's kind of like an interesting good problem to have with the game, where it's like I wanted to see so much of what was going on around me. I was constantly rotating the camera, which constantly made my character swimming towards the camera or swimming to the side and not really able to see where the hell I'm going because I'm so enamored, like a kid looking out a car window way too much. So it was an interesting problem to have. There is an adjustment period. I think you'll spend a good 10 minutes or whatever getting used to these swimming controls, but I think once you do, and honestly it's not that bad, and once you come to grips with it, it's a really fantastic game. It's one of those experience games, but I absolutely love it. I fell in love with this game, and I played it on the very last day, on like the last hour or so of the show floor being open, and I loved it. I had walked by the booth so many times, but at the end of the day, as we were saying our goodbyes in the front lobby to a lot of our friends and stuff, and as they left, I just was looking over, and you know what? Like, the line got really short for Abzu. I want to go check out Abzu. Went over there, and I'm so glad I did. I did this on a complete whim, and I think it's going to be one of the coolest games I'll play all year long, and I really think you guys should pay attention to this. If you liked Journey or Flower or any of that game company's titles, you really owe it to yourself. And if you liked Echo the Dolphin, if you liked exploration-heavy games, you really, really got to check this out. Don't miss out on this one, guys. It's not going to be full priced, and it's coming out in a month or so, and I think it's something you really should pay attention to. I think it's going to be a real big sleeper hit. I hope it's more than a sleeper hit. I hope it actually takes off like Journey took off, because I think this game honestly deserves to from what I played. It was fantastic, and I cannot wait to get into more of Abzu. It's definitely a title that should be on your radar, and I doubt it is. So let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I'll see you on the channel. Later, dudes!